This episode of Fuel for the Soul is powered by ASICS. Head over to asics.com and sign up for a one ASICS account. It's completely free, and when you sign up, you'll receive 10% off your first purchase. You'll also gain access to exclusive colorways on asics.com, free standard shipping, special birthday month discounts, and more.
Hi, this is Thomas with Believe in the Run.
This is Megan with Believe in the Run.
And this is Megan with Featherstone Nutrition.
Feathers?
AKA.
Yeah, but we should just, at this point, let's just do feathers.
Okay. Anyway.
Sign a petition, people.
You're listening to Fuel for the Soul, the podcast where we chat all things hydration and nutrition and how it affects performance. We'll answer a bunch of listener questions today, and we're going to shout out a couple of our sponsors first.
You want to do that first?
You just drank a Cheribundi.
I did.
You should have waited.
You couldn't get through that fast enough. So I've been using it and drinking it because it's supposed to build up in your system. So I've been having about one a day.
And?
I feel good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's working.
Muscle soreness, that kind of stuff, in check.
Working. Check. Yeah, I mean, my kids are also drinking it every single day. Thank you for sending me so many samples. So I can afford their habit now. And I mean, Sloan basically turned into like a superhero. So no, I'm kidding. Just kidding.
You like the frozen. They like the frozen.
Yeah, they do. But Sloan will I took a video of her. I was in the kitchen making some granola the other day, and she's had one of these hanging out of her mouth, just drinking it, watching me in the kitchen. I'm like, this is amazing. So they're delicious, and they help with muscle soreness and recovery. And we all need that.
I feel like I need that more than ever. I don't know why, but it just feels like, I don't know, when we're doing all the things, it can't hurt.
I know, right? And it, like we said before, like it's full of carbs too. So it's wonderful. I don't know about you, Thomas, but sometimes I forget during the day, but I always remember like right before bed. So a lot of times I drink it like on the couch.
Oh, so you use
I'm winding down.
Do you use the melatonin
sleep one?
Well, I still take those gummies from the guy we had on this podcast, the CBD and melatonin. So I don't want to like double dose of melatonin, but they have a sleep one that doesn't have melatonin that I've been drinking. Okay. It's good.
Okay, good. All right. So if you guys want to get some, you can go to cheribundi.com, use the code FUEL, FUEL, for 20% off your purchase. All right. The second sponsor we want to shout out is RNWY. And Megan, they just did something cool.
They did. So RNWY was a sponsor a few months ago, and a lot of you guys tried it. Their new collagen, their newer product. And some of you astutely were like, yo, Megan, RNWY is not informed sport certified or NSF certified like you guys are talking about. And I was like, I know that's in the plan for them. They're just a new product. So I got an email just this morning that said their first batch of their RNWY Foundation product is now informed choice certified, which is super exciting because it's not an easy process. So we've talked on this podcast before about how supplements can be the wild, wild west because no one is truly regulating them until we found that maybe something's wrong with one of them, which isn't awesome for us as runners when we care so much about our body and what we're putting into our body. So what does the informed sport do? It tests to make sure that what they say is in there is actually in there. Applegate debacle. Everybody knows how important that is right now. And then also that there's no banned substances. So anybody who would potentially be drug tested, whether they're a collegiate athlete or a professional athlete, it would be safe for people like that as well. But for most of us, it's more so just that we're getting what we think we're getting and nothing harmful, which is wonderful. So it's exciting news from them.
Okay, if you guys want to get some, you can go to RNWY, which is RNWY.life. And use the code FEATHERS15 for 15% off your purchase.
Yeah, it's like RNWY without any of the vowels.
No vowels.
I love it.
People
vowels.
hate vowels. Yeah.
No vowels. Oh, and word on the street is they have a new flavor, wild cherry, coming out this summer. So if you're not a lemon lime fan, stay tuned.
Cheribundi, wild cherry, all of this is coming together.
Maybe we need to merge the two together. I mean, I would do it. I'd drink them together.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not? Okay. Let's dive into our listener questions here. Our first one comes from Mary Farah. She said, "Hi, Megan, Thomas, and Megan. I'm working my way through your podcast archive, and it has made an enormous difference in my fueling and performance. Thanks for all the knowledge and the laughs. I have a question if you haven't already answered something like this before. My fastest paces are pretty slow by most standards, so I go through a lot of fuel on long efforts. Gels are convenient and my gut tolerates them well, but my wallet doesn't like them so much. On the other hand, whole foods like homemade rice balls are a lot more affordable, but I find it tricky to get them down under race conditions. With that in mind, do you have any thoughts on the idea of mixing up homemade gels with maltodextrin, salt, water, and maybe a splash of something for flavor? Bulk maltodextrin, I'm really struggling with that word, seems a lot more affordable than gels, but if this is a dumb idea for any reason, I know y'all would know. Thanks and stay awesome.
Do you know what I used to make for myself?
No.
I used to take, during the craze of minimalist shoes and Born to Run and all of that, I was making the chia seed honey mixture with a little bit of water and
As your nutrition?
Yeah, I was trying that for a while because, it was like the tarhumar or whatever it was. There's a recipe in the book or something. I would think that, and I'm going to defer to you, Feathers, but like carrying around maltodextrin is probably not the best.
Do you guys remember back when like Ryan Hall went into his bulking phase? There was like
that was
pictures
my
of him
immediate thought. Yes,
a massive bag of
maltodextrin,
maltodextrin because it's really cheap. Like it's super cheap. Just that's I'm assuming that's why she brought it up, is because it would be super affordable. And the thing that's different about maltodextrin versus like sucrose or fructose is maltodextrin, you can like concentrate a lot, so you can get a lot of carbs without it upsetting your stomach. Like the molecular molecule of it, like our body doesn't respond to it like it would dumping a bunch of sugar or fructose into our stomach. So like the Maurten 320 drink mixes or the Scratch High Carb or the Never Second, like C90, it has maltodextrin. So they can get it to that like 90 grams of carbs, 100 grams of carbs a bottle. So like if you want to play with something like that at home, truthfully, you really can't screw it up. It's not like you could over concentrate it and like under add water. So something like that works. Maltodextrin is not sweet. So mixing maltodextrin and salt together to make your own like might be an interesting flavor. Maybe put some tart cherry juice in there with it or something. But I mean, technically you could. I think what my biggest concern is just, going through nutrition school, they like beat food safety into us. Like, make sure you tell people to cook their meat to a certain temperature in your recipes. And like, they like literally are like very big on food safety. So of course that comes to my mind. If we're like mixing this stuff up and then packaging it and like holding on to it at room temperature for days, I worry a little bit about that like the sugar could ferment and we could end up getting sick. So like if we're doing this at home, I would recommend like mixing up a bottle and taking it with you and consuming it then, or like mixing it the day before and putting it in the refrigerator and consuming it within 24 hours. So that would be my only thing, is just like be conscious of like how you're mixing it up so that you're not, creating a bacteria environment of, warmth and carbohydrates and something that you didn't know was in your bottle. We've talked about how gross some of our water bottles get from running.
Could it turn into a beer?
I mean, I remember one time as a kid, I left apple cider out on my bedroom and I didn't think anything of it and took a swig and I was like, that's not right. So, I mean, it's possible.
But so if she's mixing this maltodextrin with water and whatever, like this is, she's drinking a liquid, like you're never going to recreate a gel.
Yeah, not from those ingredients that she listed. I don't think so.
What are cheaper alternatives that would be, instead of like trying to chemist something together, like dried fruit, like the high carb
gummies, fruit snacks,
high sugar, like Swedish fish, like what are some alternatives that would be more affordable for someone who doesn't want to spend the $1.50 a pouch?
Yeah. So I honestly think some of those alternatives that are in are, I mean, there's not a ton of carbs in them, but like my kids' applesauce pouches, like baby food pouches, I guess those would be kind of expensive too, though. But like you're saying, like any type of like gummy snack is basically like
Skittles.
a chew. Yeah, honestly, like any of that stuff is that fast fuel. Maple syrup, but that's again a little bit more expensive. But like you're saying, Thomas, like that's a solid fuel source. Honey, it works. It's just if we take too much fructose, that can bother our GI tract. So like straight honey the entire run, I wouldn't recommend. Like we need to put that with like a sweet potato puree or like something like that, which would take some time to make, but it would be significantly cheaper. So it's just kind of the time and the effort consideration as
It's
well.
funny. Then you've got honey stinger on the opposite side of Untap. Have you ever used the honey stingers?
No, just their chews. I use their chews a lot, but I've never taken
I
their
used
gels.
to use their
Yeah.
gels, and by the end of the run,
But that's mixed. That's not just
They do
honey.
mix
no,
them.
it's not all 100% honey. Yes, you're correct.
It wouldn't work if it was 100% honey. Like your stomach would revolt. Yeah. Yeah.
But it was a lot of honey on a run.
Yeah. Well, you met Rob Dalto in New York City.
Yes.
He makes
Yep.
his own gels. So, and he even like brands them with his like Instagram handle, but he has like a scale and he's wearing like gloves and like he's really serious about like measuring, and he uses sucrose and fructose and salt just fructose and sucrose or glucose and fructose powder and water. And then he says when he's feeling like excited, he puts in like a raspberry fruit like powder. So some of them taste like raspberry, but that's what he's been doing ever since he started running marathons. So there are people doing that. But again,
See, that's nuts to me. That's like the home brewers. It's like so much work
Yeah.
to
That's what
get
he's doing.
12 beers. Like
People doing pour over coffee in the morning. I can't.
Right?
Like
Yeah.
I don't have
Yeah.
time.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like the time thing for me, I'm like, it's worth it just to buy them. But
Yeah.
like she's saying, if she's training a lot, I would honestly probably push her towards trying some of the like actual food products before making her
Yeah.
own. But she could certainly make a drink out of maltodextrin very safely, very easily. Add some salt. And if she doesn't mind what that tastes like, that would be totally safe.
All right, let's move on to another question here. This one is from Adam Reed.
Hi, Adam.
He said, I have a consistent issue hitting the wall around mile 21 in the marathon. I'm taking 9 gels during the race. Yes, 9. Combo of Maurten and Go gels. My current marathon time is 2:58. Should I be taking even more carbs? 9th marathon in a few weeks, and I've had to walk during the 6 out of 8 of my races. Please help. Is it gels or am I just pushing too hard too early?
I'm going to say the second.
9 gels. I mean, can
That's
you do
funny.
more than that?
You could do 10.
I'm glad he told us the type of gels because we might have questioned if he was
Yeah.
actually getting the
He's
carbs
like,
he
I'm
was
taking
getting.
20 spring gels.
What is
Well, there's
what are
your
Go
problem.
gels? What are Go gels?
I think that's the Nick Bear, the Go One More.
Oh,
Aren't all his
yeah.
products Go something? I think, and they're newer, and they are some real food. So
That sounds like it's probably the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where, Megan, you used to bonk, fall on the ground and get cramps
Yeah.
around that time too. What was the thing that ended up saving you?
Mine was a combination of not taking in enough nutrition and hydration, and those two factors.
But like on the course, you were taking water, right? Like, where was the hydration falling short?
I wasn't taking in any sodium, not a lick of it.
Like even pre-night or anything?
No.
Okay.
So I think that was a huge factor. I was not fueling enough at all. I wasn't practicing fuel during my long runs or during training. And it was just like a snowball effect. But I do think because of not fueling during training, I wasn't able to push myself to what I thought I was capable to do on race day. And then on race day, you have this adrenaline and this exterior, like people cheering you on, and it's like a different environment. And so you tend to push yourself more. And I think if your body isn't used to that, not used to the nutrition intake or the actual physical movement of running that pace for that long, I think that's the mileage. 20 to 22 is where it falls apart.
Can I throw one more thing in there? You talked about not taking salt, and none of the I don't know about the Go gel, but the Maurten doesn't have any sodium in it, so it could be again like that little fine tune. Who knows how he's training, and then if he's getting any kind of
But
salt in the
bonking wouldn't be related to sodium intake, right, Megan? Like bonking and
muscle fatigue.
yeah.
So I think everybody describes bonking different. Like a true
Sure.
bonk is definitely nutrition. Like by all means, it's when we run out of carbohydrate availability, which is fast fuel, and we have to rely on fat. Like that's what a bonk is. But we could also be just like, I can't hold my pace. And that could be for multiple reasons, But I just looked up the Go gels. They have 110 milligrams of sodium per gel. So that's not that much.
Oh, so that's
truthfully.
good. Oh, it's not?
And it's like mid-range. It's not low.
I had
It's
no
not
idea.
high. It's kind of right in the middle. Like I consider 200 milligrams of sodium a gel high. So
Okay.
it's kind of right in the middle. It's more than Maurten, but less than like a higher one. So my thought was, I mean, it sounds like his carb intake is adequate. You're right. Exactly like you guys said, a 2:58 marathon, how could you take more than 9 gels? Like I agree. Like I doubt he could take much more. Does he need a little more? Perhaps. But I think kind of where my mind went was maybe he went out too hot, right? And he needs like a better pacing strategy. Or did he carb load? So even if we're taking 9 gels on the course, if we have like very minimal glycogen stores, those gels aren't going to give us what we need. We need a fully stocked glycogen stores plus those gels. So we're pulling from both of those for carbs the entire race. So if he's not carb loaded and he's taking all these gels, like he's getting by for a while, but then he could potentially be hitting a wall from lack of carbohydrate. So I would first make sure he's carb loading. And then 2, to you guys' point about hydration, he might be mistaking like poor hydration for like bonking or hitting the wall. So to you guys' point, the sodium, the hydration, making sure that, he's getting enough from that perspective. I don't know like sweat rate or body size or anything like that, but I do wonder if this could be like partially a hydration thing, partially a carb load thing, partially I went out too hot thing. So I think it could be like a combination of those 3 variables. So those are the things that I would, have Adam look into.
Yeah. And if it's this happened 6 out of 8 times, like you need to change something,
Right.
Definitely, whether it's not carb loading or, I mean, it literally could just be going out too fast. But by the 6th time, I think if you're looking back at your training and you've been hitting the paces that you expected to hit on race day, like that's clearly a nutrition thing. But if like you're looking back at your training and you're like, oh, I've never run that fast in any of my training, like probably not going to happen on race day.
Right. I just calculated he took 75 grams of carbs an hour. I mean, that's really good.
Oh, yeah.
You could push up towards 90 and see if it helps. But I mean, that's really good. So to your point, Meg, like I think we probably need to look at pacing and hydration.
Yeah. But yeah, there's like so many factors like that could be at play here. And like we didn't even mention like weather. Like did you train in cool weather and then got a hot day like a bunch of times? Like so many factors.
Well, and something we don't talk a lot about on here because we don't have Emily Saul on every single week, but like the mental component of it. The marathon gets freaking hard at mile 21. Like the number of times I've been like, I could just say my hamstring hurt and stop right here, like that feels like a very rational thought.
Mile 3, I'm like, why am I doing this? I've got 23 more miles to go.
Dumb.
I'm like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a mental game, right? I mean, I really do think that last like 10K is like nearly entirely mental. Like as long as you've gone in fit, right? It's like being able to hold that is staying tough. So I don't know. Maybe there's a piece of that too.
We always joke like that, like a lot of runners can have a really good 20-mile run. Like a lot of us can do the 20. It's the last 6.2 that really test not just your fitness, but your mental, but your fueling, but like you have to pretty much nail everything up until 20 miles to get through that last 6.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. And be a little
Marathons
crazy.
are
Have
hard.
a screw loose. Yeah. Why
Yeah.
do we do this? We're nuts. We're all crazy.
Okay, this is a related question from Brian. Brian that we know, Brian?
I don't know.
Oh.
Which Brian do we know? I know so many Brians.
It just said related question from Brian. I didn't know if
Do
there
you
was
mean
like
you thought it was like related? Like they're related?
Well, no, I run with a Brian sometime. I think
Yeah.
that's who she's talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking the Babel?
That's what I was thinking.
Not bad.
But this is not
I
him.
can't imagine him writing in. He would be one
He
who
would just be like,
ask feathers
Megan, I
straight
have a
up.
question. Yeah. I agree.
Probably in her Instagram DMs.
Okay, Brian that we may or may not know says, how does bonking or not properly fueling feel different from general fatigue? Does it come on suddenly as hitting a wall or is it a gradual fatigue? For context, I'm not a Megan or Megan. I'm 230 pounds and out on my 18 to 22 mile long runs for around 3 hours. I take about 100 grams of carbs per hour between precision gels and Tailwind. I up my carbs for a day and in the morning. I assume that's enough, and I'm just a normal level of tired at 20 miles, but maybe not for a Clydesdale runner. Thanks. Interesting.
Yeah, I know, isn't it? And it made me think, like, I think, how do you guys feel when you bonk? Like, when you haven't fueled enough, like, do you have like a specific feeling?
I mean, it doesn't happen so much in races anymore because I've got pretty dialed in on what we need. But there's those times where you decide to go out for a run and you're like, it's only 13. I don't need to bring anything. And you don't realize maybe you're a little depleted before you go out. Mm-hmm. And then for me, what it does is I start to feel it almost in my stomach, like a hunger. And then I just notice the energy start sapping out of my legs or the turnover. And it's just like the heavy legs, the harder to breathe. And just like I don't have any fuel. I don't have anything to kick in that second gear. It's just try to like even crawl out of it.
Mine's very similar to Thomas. I usually do have like a hunger cue, like where I'm like, oh, I feel kind of hungry, even if I am like running at a decent clip.
And now is that like a shit moment for you?
Yeah. And then I think it's like doubly bad because now I understand what's happening, and so then you go through like the panic phase. But it's just, the bonk to me feels just like almost like an out of body, like you can't move your legs as fast as you feel like you should be able to, and like everything just feels very fatigued and heavy and tired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny? I think this is why people can have really good half marathons, because you can kind of like say that you're 10 miles in and you're like, oh, I get that hunger cue that normally would be like, it's almost like that meter on your car where the gas is going out. It's that little red light goes on and you're like, crap, I only have X number of miles till I'll be out of gas. Mm-hmm. When my hunger thing hits, I go, oh no. Depending on, like, if it happens on a longer run, a 20-mile run or something like that, and I'm like at mile 15 or 12, then I'm like, oh, this is going to be a really rough landing. Yeah. But, but in a half, it usually goes on late enough and you can finish up those miles and then like, ooh, and then you don't realize it. And then you try it full and you're like,
Yeah, right. I mean, the full marathon is where nutrition deficiencies really shine, right? Like the first marathon I ever ran, I took one gel and I'm not even sure I took the whole thing. Like I didn't know. It was back in 2009. Like the information about fueling wasn't out there yet, which is why I got into doing what I do. Cause I was like, there's gotta be a better way to do this. And honestly, like for me, when I'm underfueled or hitting a wall or running out of carbohydrates, I feel it mentally before I feel it physically. Like mentally, I get like, it gets hard and I'm like, this is so hard. Like all of a sudden running doesn't feel fun anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. I get kind of negative. So I noticed that first, like the mental piece slips for me first. And then exactly like you guys said, I feel everything feels slow. Like no matter how hard I try, it's like, I can't get my legs to turn over. I can't hold paces. Like it just running feels hard. So like, to me, that's kind of how I would describe like a mental bonk is like, or nutrition bonk, right? It's like the mental piece slipping and just the pace is falling and not being able, like your perceived exertion you would think would be, let's just say an 8-minute pace, but you're actually running an 8:30, Mm-hmm. So it's like the pace is not matching up with the effort that you feel like you should be running when you don't have that nutrition availability. But I mean, as far as Brian goes, like 100 grams of carbs an hour is a ton. Like, I think he's getting enough. So I'm wondering if his bonk feeling, and it sounds like he's scaling up carbs. I mean, we had that whole episode on like fueling for quote unquote bigger runners, right? Which that definition is not actually defined. But if, he's marketing himself as a Clydesdale runner and, being 230 pounds, the more mass we're moving, the more nutrition we're burning. So I do think there's something to like him scaling up a little bit more while he's out there. But, research shows we can't take in much more than 100 grams of carbs an hour. So I think he's doing pretty well there. If he's taking Tailwind, he's maybe doing okay with hydration and sodium. So then it just kind of leads me to what we were saying in the last question about like weather. Is it too hot? Do we need to slow down? Like, are we trying to run these paces or these long runs too fast? Like, do we need to chill a little bit? for the weather, is it too hot? Running's hard. Like, is it just hard and we want to stop, or is it really a bonk? So I wouldn't, Brian, I wouldn't increase past 100 grams of carbs an hour. I think we should look into other factors. Yeah.
Since we were talking about the feeling of like feeling a little bit hungry or like that type of feeling, if you get that in the middle of a run, is it really too late, or can you fuel at that moment and come back out of that?
I think you could fuel and overcome that. I think, let's say that happens in a marathon at mile 14. I think we're going to need to fuel more frequently because we're like, oh, shoot, we're empty. Like, I don't know that a gel every 30 minutes is going to take care of that. If you have access to be able to fuel more frequently, or grab the electrolyte drink that has sugar on the course in between gels, or grab an extra gel on course, that kind of stuff, I think that would help. But yeah, I mean, this morning the weather was beautiful and I ran farther than I was going to, so I didn't take any gels or anything. And same thing happened. It was like at mile 9, I was like, I need a snack. I'm very hungry. I'm like, where can we go get a bagel? So it happens, but I think, yeah.
You brought up the sports drinks. And it's funny because we were talking today I went on a run with the Faster Bastards this morning. And one of the guys brought up that in Ironmans, Gatorade Endurance is no longer the drink, and what that had was carbs and sodium and that kind of stuff. And he said they replaced it with, I forget the name of it, but it only has the sodium. It doesn't have the carbs.
Mortal is what they replaced it with.
Yeah, that's it. And he was like saying that he's afraid that there's going to be a bunch of triathletes going out there thinking that they have that fuel that has the carbs for energy in it, and it won't. And he's afraid that like there'll be a lot of people bonking out there. Is it pretty well known, do you think, that this is happening?
I have quite a few triathletes, so all of them who are training realize that this is going on. So I don't know that somebody would like hop out onto the course and like not realize that it has changed. I would equate it, I'm sure they wouldn't like me to say this, but I would equate it to like a liquid IV. So it's got like 10 grams of carbs and higher sodium, right? So you're right. It's not the same as like a Gatorade Endurance, but it does have a little more sodium than Gatorade Endurance would, and a little bit of carbs, but it's like 10 grams of carbs per serving to like 22 grams of carbs. So it is a decent difference over the course of a half marathon or marathon at the end of an Ironman. I'm honestly shocked that it's going down. Right now, they're having both at courses. So they're having the Mortal and the Gatorade Endurance on the bike course and the run course, but I'm told that they're going to phase out the Gatorade Endurance and it's only going to be Mortal. So I think it's like, I think people doing Ironman races probably need to get used to Mortal if that's what they want to use, because it appears as though that's what's going to stick around a little bit more. So yeah, I mean, if people are relying on that being their carbs, because you guys have done the half, I've done a half, there's an aid station every mile, so you could get a decent amount of Gatorade Endurance down to actually get close to 20 grams of carbs a mile just from Gatorade Endurance. So I think it is a valid concern, and whether you carry your own stuff or you rely on gels more, I think it's definitely something to be aware of.
Okay. The last thing we're going to cover today is a study that came out on energy cost of continuous running versus the run-walk method.
Somebody on Instagram sent me this study. It's not brand new. It's from 2020. And they wanted to know my thoughts on it. And as I was looking at it, like Meg said, it's a study about how many calories or energy we're burning per amount of running, straight running versus run walking. And I don't think I realized until I started doing this how popular run walking is. Like, I have some clients that do it. Like, there's a lot of people that have like alarms set, on their watch, and they do increments of running and walking. And I often have people like, well, do I really need to fuel? I'm not running the whole time. Or do I need to fuel as much as you guys talk about on the podcast? Like, I'm not running the whole time, right? And we're always like, yes, like you're out there, you're moving, like you need to be, fueling. Or my heart rate's a little bit lower. No, we're absolutely right. So she was sending me this study because she wanted to like kind of get my take on it. And she was like, maybe you could mention this on the podcast. And I was like, this is a solid idea, because it was a small study. Don't get me wrong. It was only 30 runners, 16 men, 14 women. And they had them run straight for 6 minutes, walk straight for 6 minutes. And then they did the run walk for 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off for 12 minutes. And they measured their energy expenditure. And what they found in this group was obviously running burns more than walking. We're covering more distance. That makes sense. And they burned almost 9 calories more per kilogram running versus walking. But then when they tested people that were doing the 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off run walk, those people actually burned almost 4 calories per kilogram more than the runners did. So the whole start-stop, like the energy expenditure with that was actually a little bit greater, which honestly makes sense. Like I think it's hard to start running again once you've stopped.
Yeah.
Like if you stop at a water station and try to get like some fluid and then try to start again, I feel like it does. It feels like you're revving up or you're, expending more energy. So that's what this study found. So I wanted to mention it in case anybody listening is like, yeah, but the Megs and Thomas run fast and don't stop, like.
That's good. That's interesting. Yeah. Cause I wouldn't have guessed that. And that's,
I know.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm. The more you know, folks.
Yeah. All right. It is Friday. We're recording this on a Friday at 3:30 and we are tired. So we are going to wrap this one up.
We are.
With a nice pretty bow.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't we?
Thomas,
Peas and
do you have any
carrots?
parting words? There you go.
Oh, that's it. I got it. Hey, by the way, whoever that was who sent it to you, I got an email with the peas and carrots
Of the
in
can?
the cans from Australia.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to bring us some Tim Tams and some Vegemite
Ooh.
to the New York City Marathon. I said I'm in on Tim Tams. I'm unsure about Vegemite. So
Vegemite is a hard pass. Hard pass.
And it has to be sealed.
It has to be sealed. You hear that, our Australian friend? It must be sealed.
Good eye, mate.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Okay. Thanks everyone for listening as always. And if you have a question we haven't answered, you can send us an email at fuelforthesoulpodcast@gmail.com and we will answer it here on the show.
Possibly.
Perhaps.
I'm trying to get through them all, guys.
I think it's crazy we had 2 guys. I remember I felt like when this
Those all girls
started.
for a while.
Yeah, it was a women's club.
The audience is growing. All of the people.
You know what? Women don't want to wear super shoes because they don't think that it's that important, right? And guys don't think they need nutrition.
Hey, I will
Yes.
say, I have multiple men on my roster right now of one-on-one coaching. Like for a while, it was
I think we're
straight
learning,
chicks. I do.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
I have a large. My 2 new clients this week are men. Yeah, I'm like, let's
And
go, dude.
I think it's
Roll.
the same thing as the super shoe thing. I think that like they said that women don't feel like they deserve a super shoe or aren't fast enough for a super shoe, so they stay out of the market. Where the men who are even slower than probably they are like, yeah, I'm gonna get the super shoe. And
Right.
now I think it's the same thing with nutrition.
But vice versa.
Yeah, I dig it.
Flip flopping.
Very good.
Yeah, let's do it.
You're saving people's lives.
Or marathon times. Either one.
Making people happy when they run. That's it.
Yeah.
Healthy, happy runners. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Officially
Bye.
peas and carrots.
Officially.
Were they working for Maurten?
No.
Symbol was on their shirt.
It's booger snot with styrofoam balls in it.
Okay.
No, but look at
He
that.
said, doesn't it look like a
I mean, like, and the white part or the clear part below it.
Do you think we should put this in on the ad for Cheribundi?
We got a new marketing strategy for you.
Anyway.
Yes. So